Major breaking news hits the stores hits the shelves in the boxing world today. What's up, you guys? Carl Sturr here of FightfulBoxing.com. Nothing cute. Let's just get right into it. Gennady Golovkin, former middleweight world champion, global superstar, still one of the five biggest names in the sport today, has signed with DAZN, ending what was months and months of negotiations. Initially a bidding war between DAZN, PBC, and ESPN has now ended with DAZN on top, getting another middleweight superstar. Here's the article as it appears on Fightful.com. Golovkin has officially signed a 6-fight deal with DAZN that will see Golovkin fight twice a year on the streaming service. As far as his next fight is concerned, Golovkin plans to return to the ring in June against an opponent at a later date. Now, the opponent has not been mentioned, although one possibility, although it is not a guarantee, one possible opponent would be WBO middleweight champion Demetrius Andrade. But the thing about Golovkin versus Andrade is it might not happen, as there is a very strong chance that Golovkin would be fighting again in September against the winner of Canelo Alvarez versus Daniel Jacobs. This being the planned trilogy fight between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. The first two fights between the two were on HBO pay-per-view, did incredible numbers, over 1 million buys each, and now Golovkin could potentially fight Canelo Alvarez once more in the DAZN fight. But the deal is not just relating to him as a boxer, as the press release that everyone got sent also mentioned that Golovkin and his company, Triple G Promotions, will present 2 cards a year on the platform beginning in 2020. Now, Golovkin is 36 years old. It is a 3-year deal, and the way the press release DAZN sent out made it out to be, this will be the final broadcast deal for Gennady Golovkin as a boxer. He is 36. He's going to turn 37 by the time he steps into the ring in June, as his birthday is next month. So there's a lot to sort of unpack here. Here's what Golovkin had to say about the announcement and the news. DAZN has quickly become the new home of boxing by making the biggest events easily available to the fans. When deciding on where I wanted to continue my career, DAZN's global vision perfectly matched my goals, not just for my career, but the opportunity to showcase talented Eastern European fighters to the world. Thank you to all my fans for all of the loyal support, and I look forward to you joining me on DAZN. As I mentioned, there has been no opponent named for Golovkin's return. He is currently the #1 middleweight in the WBA, WBC, and WBO rankings. Canelo owns the WBA and Super and WBC middleweight titles, while Andrade holds the WBO title. Golovkin had been the biggest free agent for months after Alvarez signed with DAZN. As I mentioned, initially it was a bidding war between between PBC, ESPN, and DAZN. ESPN sort of quickly fell out of favor. So right around the time that Ryota Murata, the former WBA's regular middleweight champion, lost to Rob Brandt, as there had been plans, although not officially announced nor confirmed, of Golovkin going to Japan and face Ryota Murata, which would have been one of the biggest events in Japanese boxing history, or at least in modern Japanese boxing history. But with Murata out, there really was no reason for Golovkin to go to ESPN. So it essentially became a war between between DAZN and PBC, my mistake. But looking at the rosters at middleweight for both brands, DAZN definitely has the stronger brand in terms of middleweights. As I mentioned, they do have Alvarez, they do have Andrade. They also got IBF champion Daniel Jacobs, whom Golovkin had previously fought in March of 2017 in a really, really competitive fight that saw Golovkin narrowly beat Jacobs on the scorecards on a pay-per-view on HBO. The deal between Golovkin and HBO, they've been together for years and years. Golovkin's last fight on the network was actually on pay-per-view against Alvarez, the much anticipated sequel to their 2017 slugfest. Golovkin headlined 4 pay-per-view events on HBO throughout his career, with 2 of them doing more than a million buys each, them being the 2 fights against Canelo Alvarez. The moment Golovkin fought Alvarez last year, it was also reported that Golovkin's deal with HBO had ended. And then weeks later, when HBO announced that it was no longer going to be doing boxing broadcasts in 2019, it was essentially a fire sale as to who could sign all the biggest free agents coming out of HBO. The Zone so far has signed a lot of major stars, including Daniel Jacobs, Canelo Alvarez, Gennady Golovkin, Shisake Soron-Visai, and many more. Say what you want about the Zone and how they handle events, how Matchroom Boxing is sort of organizing the Zone cards up to this point, but you can't really fault the Zone for trying to get as many stars as possible and succeeding for the most part. As I mentioned, they signed all of those big names that I just mentioned from HBO. They also signed Dimitri Bivol, the WBA light heavyweight champion. They also got the entire Matchroom Boxing roster, as in the UK fighters. Anthony Joshua is going to be making his U.S. debut on June 1st against Terrell Miller at Madison Square Garden. They also got Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions, that entire roster. Not to mention World of Boxing, the company that promotes Dimitri Bivol. They're also partnering heavily with the Zone, as a lot of the fighters are signing co-promotional deals with Matchroom Boxing to sort of solidify their presence on the Zone. We actually got the news yesterday that Israel Madrimov signed a co-promotional deal with Matchroom Boxing. So the Zone's roster is slowly becoming the most complete roster in boxing today because of the association with Matchroom Boxing, because of the affiliation with Golden Boy Promotion, and with World of Boxing. There's just the roster just keeps expanding more and more, and really at $10 a month, essentially, it's a pretty good deal for boxing fans. They're holding boxing cards on almost on a weekly basis, if not every 2 weeks. This weekend we have 2 boxing cards on the Zone. Technically, well, one today with the Matchroom Boxing Italy card later today, and then tomorrow the Matchroom Boxing USA card from Verona, New York, headlined by Dimitri Bivol versus Joe Smith Jr. for the WBA light heavyweight title. You can head on over to Fightful's MMA and Boxing YouTube channel, where I talk to Maurice Hooker, who is going to be defending his WBO junior welterweight title on that DAZN card tomorrow in Verona, New York. We spoke on a variety of topics, including his fight, how he perceives himself as a world champion, what are his unification plans, if he has any, and he tells me that he wants to defend his world title in Dallas for a homecoming fight this June. You can watch that entire interview on the Fightful MMA and Boxing YouTube channel, where I've also spoken to the likes of Leonard Ellerby and David Benavidez on a conference call yesterday, as well as WBC welterweight champion Sean Porter. Lots of content over there on that channel, as well as on Fightful Pro Wrestling's YouTube channels. Go ahead and subscribe there as well. Head on over to Fightful.com and FightfulBoxing.com for all the latest news within the sport. Carlos Toro at FightfulBoxing.com. We're out.